The 2022 NFL Draft is in the books, and the Atlanta Falcons welcome 8 new members to the Brotherhood. So let's get to the Atlanta Falcons draft class for the year 2022. In round 1, they went with Drake London, the wide receiver out of USC, and this pick is not surprising to me whatsoever, as I had Drake London slated at 8 to the Falcons in the majority of my mock drafts for a reason. And I've been saying throughout the entire mock draft process, if you have the opportunity to take one of the top receivers in this draft class early on in the draft, the opportunity is too good to pass up on. As we've seen in the last couple of drafts, wide receivers come off the board pretty early that have either already made a big impact in the league or have the potential to make a big impact in the league. So the Falcons got their first pick of the wide receivers, and they went with Drake London. And I can already tell there are some mixed feelings between the Falcons fans with this pick. There are some that are ecstatic with this pick. They like what Drake London could potentially bring to the table for the Falcons. And there are others that wish they could have either traded down to get more draft picks, or they could have taken someone on defense, such as Jordan Davis, as Jordan Davis was a popular pick or a popular wish for them to pick at number 8. But as soon as this pick was made, I thought to myself, as long as the Falcons address their defensive needs on day 2, then I think the Falcons can still come out of here with a pretty good draft. But it's off to a decent start, as the wide receiver was a bigger need than a lot of Falcons fans realize. Because going into the draft, they had what was potentially the worst receiving core in the entire NFL, with Calvin Ridley being suspended. Going into 2022, their wide receiver 1 would have been Olamide Zaccheaus if they did not address receiver needs at all. Number 2 receiver would have been Damiere Byrd. So wide receiver was important for the Falcons, and they addressed it here by going with Drake London. Although part of me kind of wishes that it would have been Garrett Wilson or Chris Olave, I still think this is a great pick in Drake London. He's got great hands. And I think the biggest question with him was his injury history, as he did miss some time last year for the Trojans. With their first of 2 second-round picks, they went with my personal favorite pick in this Falcons draft, Arnold Ebecati, the edge rusher out of Penn State. And this was a steal in my opinion, as he had been in some mock drafts as someone that could sneak in the first round, maybe as high as middle of the first round. As the Falcons, they get someone that can get to the quarterback, as the Falcons have struggled on defense forever now. And this, I think, is a pick right here, if not A+ pick. They traded up to get him. I was kind of worried they were going to trade up and get Malik Willis with that pick, but thank goodness they did not. And I'm not saying that I'm not a fan of the Desmond Ritter pick. I'm not completely a fan of it, but I still like the pick, which I'll explain later. But they get somebody that can get to the quarterback. They know how to harass quarterbacks. As he started off at Temple and he transferred to Penn State, and Penn State had one of the best defenses in college football this past season. So I think he's going to, without a doubt, be a day 1 starter. And I can't wait to see him harass some quarterbacks. With their second round 2 pick, they went with Troy Anderson, the linebacker out of Montana State. And I kind of questioned this pick when I saw it happen live, because Nakobe Dean was still on the board. But after I saw some of his highlights, I think this could be a great fit for the Falcons. Plus, he did play some quarterback early on in his college career. And you never know, maybe since the NFL is becoming a copycat league, maybe they are going to use Troy Anderson in some plays, kind of as a Taysom Hill-like QB. Since he does have that quarterback experience, this could be an excellent pick. I didn't really know much about him before the draft began, but after seeing his highlights, I think I enjoy this pick a little bit more than I originally thought. But we'll see what happens. We'll see how Nakobe Dean pans out with the Eagles. And I was surprised why they didn't go with Nakobe Dean, as I felt like they could have used someone with championship pedigree, someone that's played in big games, someone that's coming off of a national championship with the Georgia Bulldogs. But it turns out he refused to have surgery in the offseason, which is why he fell all the way to pick 83. With their first pick in round 3, they went with Desmond Ritter, the quarterback out of Cincinnati. And this was a pick, kind of like the Troy Anderson pick, that I didn't really like once I saw the pick happen live. But now that I've had about 24 hours to process this pick, I think I may end up learning to love this pick. And the reason why I didn't really like it at first was because I would have much rather have had them tank this season to have an opportunity to get CJ Stroud or Bryce Young. But once I saw a comparison of Desmond Ritter to Marcus Mariota, this pick made a lot of sense. With Arthur Smith coming from Tennessee, being their offensive coordinator, knowing that he's used to Marcus Mariota, he signed Marcus Mariota in the offseason to a 2-year deal, and it only made sense that he would draft someone that is being compared to Marcus Mariota in Desmond Ritter, as Desmond Ritter showed off his mobility a lot in 2020, and he is a winner. Despite being in the conference that he was in, he still managed to lead Cincinnati to the college football playoff this past season and an undefeated regular season in 2020, with their one loss being to Georgia that season on a last-second field goal. So this could be a quarterback that could potentially do big things for the Falcons. In fact, I'm hoping so, but even if the Falcons don't do well next year and they find themselves in maybe the top 5, then they could have an opportunity to take Stroud or Young. So this is a pick that isn't really risky at all. Really, the pressure is off of Ritter to perform compared to if he would have been drafted in round 1. So I think in a way this is a steal for the Falcons. Although I will say I wasn't a fan of it at first, but I will probably learn to love this pick eventually. I'm more than halfway there, though. I'm probably at about maybe 75, 80% love this pick, 20%. I kind of wish they would have waited for a quarterback in next year's draft class, as this year's draft class for quarterbacks wasn't as hyped and built up as it has been in years past. With their second, third round pick, they went with Deangelo Malone, the outside linebacker out of Western Kentucky. And again, Nakobe Dean was still on the board. And I get that if you want to criticize me on if I just wanted the Falcons to take Georgia players. It's not that. It's just that at this point in the draft, Nakobe Dean would be a massive steal. And it's at the point where there's no big risk to taking someone like Nakobe Dean, knowing that he refused to have surgery in the offseason, which is why he was falling in the draft. But this is a solid pickup. They pick up a need at the linebacker position. So they draft someone to fill in that void. And we do find out the Eagles take Nakobe Dean literally the next pick at pick 83. Now, am I going to discredit what Deangelo Malone has done on film to get to where he's at? Not at all. It's just that when you have someone that could have been a top 10, top 15 pick, and you could have got him in round 3, could have been a massive steal. Plus, Nakobe Dean has some championship pedigree, someone that has played in big games, someone that is just coming off of a national championship with the Georgia Bulldogs. But overall, still a solid pick of the Falcons right here. In the 5th round, they went with Tyler Allgeier, the running back out of BYU. And let me tell you, I am a big fan of this pick. Tyler Allgeier was 4th in the country in rushing yards last season, only behind Lou Nichols, Kenneth Walker, and Tyler Beatty. And I think Tyler Allgeier has the potential to be an RB1 in Atlanta in the near future, as Cordell Patterson is getting up there in age. Mike Davis didn't do much, if anything, last season. So I would not be surprised in a year or two if Tyler Allgeier is the running back 1 for the Falcons. And I think that Allgeier can be that bell cow running back that the Falcons are so desperate to bring back in the Michael Turner days, back when they had Devonta Freeman. And I think that this is a massive steal here for the Falcons, as Tyler Allgeier has been one of my favorite running backs in this draft class, him and Tyler Beatty. And if the Falcons were to have drafted either one of those two, I would have been really satisfied. And they take Allgeier in round 5. Great pick for them. With their first of 2 round 6 picks, they went with Justin Schaeffer, the guard out of Georgia. And this is another good pick for the Falcons. They address needs within the offensive line, as Matt Ryan has not had much time to throw the football in these last couple of seasons. And I wish Matt Ryan nothing but the best in Indianapolis. And I'm happy that he's getting the opportunity in Indy to be behind a better offensive line, as there was no way he was going to reach his full potential with the Falcons. And I know it's a harsh statement, but sometimes the truth hurts. But they address needs within the offensive line. And hopefully this is just the first step of building a way better offensive line. As we saw these last few seasons, Matt Ryan never had time to throw the football. He was getting constantly harassed with a weak offensive line. And Georgia, they have had good offensive lines in these past couple of seasons. And I love this pick for the Falcons. And the final pick they had in the draft, with their 2nd round 6 pick and final pick of the 2022 NFL draft, they went with John Fitzpatrick, tight end out of Georgia. And John Fitzpatrick became the 2nd Georgia Bulldog to be taken by the Atlanta Falcons. And I think this pick can turn out to be a good pick for a couple reasons. One, Arthur Smith likes to run 2 tight end sets. 2, the Falcons lost Hayden Hurst in the offseason. So those 2 reasons kind of tie into one. Tight ends are used primarily these days for blocking. And this pick of John Fitzpatrick, a potential successor to Lee Smith, who was known for being a blocking tight end for the Falcons. So we truly don't know what Arthur Smith's intentions are of utilizing John Fitzpatrick. But we could see him being a blocking tight end primarily. Maybe we can see the playbook open up for him. We might see him get a couple touchdowns. But those are the 8 picks of the 2022 Atlanta Falcons draft class. I think an overall grade for the Falcons draft, I'm going to give it a B. But we truly don't know how this draft class is going to pan out. We don't know what grade to truly give this draft class until a couple years from now, when we see how they perform and how they pan out. So this draft class could be better than what we originally anticipate, or it could be worse than what we originally anticipate. But I think a solid B for the NFL Falcons, that's a pretty solid grade. So that is all I have. Like, share, comment your thoughts, subscribe, and until next time, have a great night, have a great day whenever you're watching, and thank you for tuning in.